All right, we've got a great show for you today. From the famous 90s show, Who's the Boss?, Melrose Place, and Charmed, welcome Alyssa Milano. Tommy Lee, drummer for Motley Crue, stops in. And another rock star, albeit an optometric one, welcome Dr. Tom Arnold. We talked to Dr. Dillon Batalo, creator of the viral TikTok video and Instagram reel, The Slit Lamp Fail, who tells his story, and more on this week's Fluorescene.
Welcome to Fluorescene.
Hello, it is Alyssa Milano, and I'm charmed to introduce the Fluorescene show. The Fluorescene show? The Fluorescene? Well, you get the idea. Mwah.
Hello and welcome to Fluorescene show number 2. I'm your host, Dr. Alan Glazier. In January, it was an incredible month for the profession as an optometry scope expansion bill was signed into law in the last holdout state, Massachusetts. With this law, the playing field is evened, and the public now is able to benefit across the nation by the increased access to care and optometry being able to practice medical optometry in all states to the full extent of our education. It also represents a sea change in the way optometry is viewed by healthcare systems in all 50 states. Scope expansion. Nothing professionally makes me happier. Great job, Massachusetts ODs. This was a long time coming. However, it's not time to let our guard down. There's still a long way to go. Many states, including my state, Maryland, still have limited formularies and can't do procedures. So our work isn't done yet. Support your state association, the National Association, in their expansion efforts with your time and money. Write your representatives to familiarize them with the scope of your training and abilities, because they don't know. Let them know that other states have eclipsed your state in their ability to care for the health of their citizens by restricting optometrists to practice that is below their level of education and training. We need everyone to get active and move optometry forward. Way to go, Massachusetts. And thanks to every organization, every individual, and especially my alma mater, NECO, for their role bringing this to fruition. On to news of the weird. Weird things patients have brought into offices. There were too many to review all of them, so I organized them and awarded one in each category. In the award for weird thing based on its rarity, we have one doctor who said themselves, as in the weirdest thing people bring in is usually themselves. So true. Another member's contribution to the rare category was cash with no insurance. That is weird for sure. In the category of gross weird things, another member led off with a load of poop in the pants, which was actually a little too much information for me. Yet another member made everyone turn green with his patient who brought in bed bugs. Yikes. And then a doctor shared her run-in with the exfoliated skin from a patient's face neatly packaged in a Ziploc bag. Because how else would you package it? Moving on to the news of the weird in the just weird things general category, we have another member who had a patient who brought a food scale to weigh frames in search of the lightest frame. Let me guess, an engineer? And one doctor showed a pic of a ring made out of a patient's prosthetic eye. What a lovely fashion statement. In animal weirdness, there were several snakes around the neck experiences, support snakes, and more. Another member said someone brought in a live owl he wanted her to check for cataracts, which, when the owl got excited, flapped its wings, releasing thousands of bugs all over the lane. That one experience might win in 2 categories. We need a creepy category. In the mortification category, another doctor had to clean the glasses of a homicide photographer who dropped his specs on a body, making the doc want to jump in the ultrasonic cleaner. Yikes, I would too. Another member said a patient brought in her dead husband in her purse. I sure hope he was cremated first. That's all I can say. Now, perhaps the weirdest of them all, for no other reason than I decided to pick the most optometric weird thing to win, goes to another doctor. He posts their cornea in a contact lens case. He goes on to explain that it was a bandage lens inserted post-LASIK, which fell out with the flap in it, flap unbeknownst to the patient. He put it in a case and brought it in and handed it to this doctor. Luckily for the doc, an eye for an eye didn't apply in this case. A member posts about ophthalmologists upselling multifocal implants, and a lot of you had something to say about this one. The member mentioned how it's extra revenue for the ophthalmologist, yet a headache with not much increased revenue for the optometrist to manage these. This was a common sentiment among many. A member brought up the fact that in relation to complaints of increased aberrations, what if the patient develops sight-reducing eye disease subsequently? Like macular degeneration. This is a definite concern and must be addressed beforehand as part of the informed consent and risk assessment evaluation. I love the doctor's suggestion to give patients a heads up on the multifocal sales pitch. We're doing our job setting expectations. It really helps avoid the patient contacting you for your opinion a second time after they visit the ophthalmologist just because they didn't know that they'd have options that would require them to go out of pocket. Now they're confused, and you're going to help them with that, hopefully before they ever go in there. As another doctor duly noted, if they have a bad result, they don't complain to the surgeon. When they have questions, they'll come to you, the optometrist, because they have a long-standing relationship with you, they trust you, and because you're likely more accessible. One doctor astutely mentioned the success of multifocal IOLs is directly proportional to the severity of the pre-surgical cataract. If it's a brunescent 4+, they'll love their multifocal IOL. If they're a 1+ suffering from glare and 20/25 vision, they'll hate it, which led us to comments on outcomes. While many docs reported seeing bad outcomes, many docs said they've witnessed great success, higher than 90%, and happy patients a vast majority of the time. Apparently, this all boils down to two critical things, which two docs clarified. That helping identify the right patients is the key to success, as always with most of the things we do, and a doctor added how surgeon skill experience is directly related to outcome. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. A member posted something we all see that bothers us. A kid comes in complaining of distance blur, sans correction 2200 to OD&OS. You refract the kid to 20/20 OU, then pull the phoropter away, and the parent interrupts. Go ahead, sweetheart. You can read that. Then the kid doesn't read it. The parent exclaims, you really can't read that? You show her with the trial frame, and then the parent says, so you're telling me she needs glasses? Are you sure? Sure of what? Sure you weren't watching your kid's eye exam? Sure I told you what you didn't want to hear, so your immediate response is to question my expertise? Or am I sure your kid is blind as a bat? I really want to know because what I'm sure of that right here in this room, I'm witnessing negligent parenting. I can guess the next answer for the next question they haven't even asked yet. No, not wearing glasses will not make your child better. A doctor mentioned she loves when the parent asks the provider to repeat the test. Oh my God, it's one of my pet peeves. Another doctor points out it's inevitable the parent will mention the words legally blind without glasses at some point. This is guaranteed to make any optometrist wince. The cherry on top was a doctor's comments in her unique, insightful, not so subtle and entertaining manner. She would say, actually, I'm not sure about your child's glasses. I am certain, however, that you need a hearing aid, a translator, and a frontal lobotomy. There was a super cool post that demonstrated real, out-of-the-box, cutting-edge, high-tech customer service creativity, and I love that. A doctor has made a couple of contact lens drone deliveries to patients during COVID. He points out while the technology is still a bit off to go mainstream, and there are remaining physical challenges, that he believes it'll eventually become a luxury service we can offer our patients. The doc posted a YouTube video you can find in the community. Doc, you have just raised the bar and engineered an entire new strategy to serve our patients. This is especially important in situations like the pandemic where they can't get in or don't want to come in. Kudos to you pushing the technology envelope. Members questioned this and foresaw challenges, of course. One doctor mentioned the method's usefulness in moving frames between the practice and the lab instead of using a courier, not just getting things to patients. There were questions about package weight and drone battery life. Another doctor mentioned that the drones could be shot out of the air, especially if he saw them flying over his farm. And I imagine if he was bored, that would be even worse. And that's a concern, but I think the drone doc made it clear that while it's not a perfect solution yet, it has utility, and over time, many of these challenges can be overcome. Overall, this type of thinking adds a layer of high-level customer service, and the use of new technology reflects well on your business, doc, so kudos to you. One doctor posts a patient who said, I use holistic eye drops. It's an ancient shamanic remedy, and it's been proven to create energy changes within the eye. It actually treats a lot of eye diseases, and it makes your prescription way more stable. And it helped my mom with her detached retina, to which the doc responded, so that's cool, so your astigmatism got a diopter worse in both eyes, and your eye pressures are fairly high, to which the patient responded, wait, doc, are you telling me that the shaman's treatment didn't work? Hey, forgive me for being a skeptic, but proven to create energy changes within the eye? I missed that class. I imagine the double-blind study that determined this drop was proven will leave you double-blind. I might advise here to take it easy before she accumulates so much energy she starts shooting rays out of her eyes. One member proudly shared a picture of the amazing birthday cake his staff created for his 50th birthday. The post got a ton of likes. The cake read, I, EYE, am an optometrist. My jokes are as corny as it gets. You must be an awesome boss. That's all I could say. Lots of love put into that cake from your staff. Not only did his jokes get cornea, but his post got 1.6 thousand likes. Happy 50th birthday, Doc. Hope you live long and die late. Get it? Die late? Hey, this was tough to come up with a joke for. Please, give me a break. A doctor posted this image and saying, vaccination half complete. Not sure what people are worried about. Hilarious. One member asks, any triplopia? Another member responded, nah, the third eye's blind, I hear. One doc wants to know if he's found any of the Dragon Balls. And another says, loved you on that Twilight Zone episode. A member wants to know, with all the other people getting vaccinating and growing third eyes, if eye exam prices are going up. Good question. And a doc says, I really hope you saw patients looking like that today. And that's it for today's commentary.
I'm here tonight with a very good friend of mine, an industry legend, Dr. Tom Arnold. Dr. Arnold is a 1984 graduate of the University of Houston College of Optometry and founder of Memorial Eye Center. It's in Sugar Land, Texas, right there in Houston. He's a member of the board of directors of the Laser Eye Institute of Houston. He's adjunct faculty at the University of Houston College of Optometry. Dr. Arnold is a thought leader and innovator in specialty contact lens. He's world-renowned for his expertise in scleral lenses. He's co-founder of Scleral Lens Practitioners, an amazing Facebook group with over 6,500 members. He's a fellow of the Scleral Lens Education Society He's co-founder of the International Congress of Scleral Contacts, held in Miami Beach each year, the first meeting ever dedicated solely to scleral contact lenses. I was fortunate to attend that, and it was fantastic, Tom. Tom is an international speaker. He also serves on several boards. He's presented at meetings in the United Kingdom, South Africa, India, Jordan, Colombia, and Russia. He lives in Houston and spends much of his time with his family in Scotland, his daughter Meredith, and 2 grandchildren. I welcome Dr. Arnold.
Thanks, Alan. It's a pleasure to be with you, and I'm certainly flattered that you asked me. It's always great to talk to you.
Well, thanks for making yourself available. This is a tough scheduling thing, and then we had some tech stuff going, but I think we're there. Woo, thank goodness.
It's great. Technology's relentless, man. There's always something new to learn.
It really is. Something's falling off my monitor there. But anyhow, so welcome. I know you had a busy day in clinic today. So I just want to start by telling you how I'm always amazed at your following on social media. And not only have you built it in a relatively small amount of time, but you've done it organically. And the way that you engage, I observe this all the time, is very genuine. And that's a large part of why people connect with you. That, and of course, your deep knowledge and specialty contacts. I want to start tonight by going back a little while in your career so people could get to know more about you. What point did you decide it would be optometry? And tell us about the path that led to that decision.
That's great. I don't know if you have enough airtime for that whole story, but I'll try to give you a condensed version.
Oh, I'm going to edit the hell out of you.
There you go. There you go. I really went to school to be an English teacher. I love literature. I love writing. I love teaching, but I was dissuaded from that. I was going to college in the 70s. And so I was dissuaded from that. And then I liked economics. I liked science. I like graphs. I like modeling. But anyway, that didn't work out. I got married, still married to my wife of Donna for almost 45 years. And I went to work on computers. And this is the middle 70s, and I worked for a couple of years and just really didn't like it. So I like science, and I really wanted to help people. Being very myopic myself, I ended up being minus 750 and minus 975. So going to the optometrist and getting contacts and new glasses was something I was very familiar with. So when I decided on a medical career, I thought, well, optometry is something that I could really understand and make an impact with. So it was a fortunate career change. I made it early, in my life. And optometry has brought me so much pleasure, success. And as you had mentioned in your kind intro, it's allowed me to travel the world. So I feel like I can go probably anywhere and find some optometrist and have something to share.
Well, it sounds like you have gone almost anywhere with that resume, and I know that's relatively recent in the past few years, and I'm sure you enjoyed that tremendously. I know my first international gig was very exciting, when it was in Canada. Nothing against Canada, it's just really international.
True. So we went to Poland, and I went to Australia, and it's very, very interesting. Scleral lenses, this technology really unites us around the world, because wherever you go, patients have similar issues and practitioners have similar issues. And so the world of scleral lens practitioners is still relatively small. So it's been a pleasure. And I want you had complimented me on the social media, and I want to tell you, Alan, you have helped me tremendously. Your advice and your counsel, and you've always been there for me. So you've been a partner and a very able mentor in this field, and I really appreciate it.
Well, that's kind. And anybody in the industry who's doing something in social media that is beneficial to the industry and to our colleagues, if I can add value, I try to, because I know that's probably the best thing I can do for optometry. And if it's organic, and if they're like I said, they're doing it from the heart, and they're trying to help people, I'm all there for them. So thanks.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think about scleral lenses now, and I guess I'm so exposed to them through you, through other experts in the field. There's too many to name. Melissa Barnett, who you partner with on this recent podcast. What was the name of the podcast?
It's called Globalize. We started last summer. We've taped 5 episodes now. It's available, on iTunes, Google Podcast, iHeartRadio, Spotify. It's called Globalize. And since Melissa and I have traveled a lot, and of course Melissa's such a high profile speaker and writer, author of several books herself. Between the two of us, we know a lot of people around the world, and it's fascinating to talk to people in other countries. So far, we've talked to practitioners in Australia, South Africa, Brazil. Our last chat was with Jason Compton in New York City.
I love Jason.
And also Simone Visser from the Netherlands, she and her father were instrumental in the Visser design. And we have an upcoming interview with Russia, Gulnara Andrienko. So it's fascinating to hear how the challenges that the people have in their countries, how they solve them, and just chit chat about patients and also their lifestyle. So Globalize is really a lot of fun. I'm
going to encourage everyone to download Globalize and check it out. What I was going to tell you that for me, scleral lenses now, it's such a big part of my social media life. I see it everywhere. I pay attention, and I practiced a lot of scleral lenses too. In my head, it's just part of my general optometric practice now. It's not even such a specialty, but I think most practitioners aren't fitting scleral lenses, and there are some either real or imagined roadblocks to them. Like many things, even with Ortho-K, I've seen this, that it takes a little bit of additional knowledge to be able to fit them, and then some hands-on experience until it's a mainstream part of your practice. It's tremendously rewarding. You're really helping people who need it, and it adds a lot to your bottom line. Why do you think practitioners aren't fitting scleral lenses when they're not?
I think maybe they're a little intimidated by the size of the lens and that it is a rigid lens. And I don't know these days, since we have so many soft lens options, good soft lens options, daily disposables, high water content, maybe some practitioners just haven't had the experience with a rigid lens. But once you get your feet wet and start putting a couple of scleral lenses on patients who need them. Keratoconus is an obvious indication, as well as we see a lot of post-archaic ectasias here in Houston because of the big ophthalmology community, and then just dry eyes. Once you see how comfortable they are, and with a few tips that you can get from websites and books that are available, you'll see how comfortable they are. I won't say they're easy to fit. They're easy to get started, but as you do more and more patients, you'll encounter more challenging patients. And so it's a rewarding thing. Takes a little effort. There's a learning curve, but there's plenty of resources out there.
Well, now I'm going to throw the no more softballs at you. Tell us about the time when that was you. Tell us the time. When you transferred for doing your first specialty or scleral lens.
Well, thank you for that question. I've been in practice 36 years, as you said in your intro, 8 years in various ophthalmology groups, and then I started my own practice in 1992. And I always liked contact lenses, did some extra work in it at the University of Houston and afterwards. So I always concentrated on it. And I had a background in RGPs because in the early 80s, we were still fitting those. So, but I had general optometry practice doing things that all of us do. And as far as keratoconus goes and all the indications we just talked about, I was fitting the RGP cone lenses, and I was doing some hybrids and, maybe some specialty soft lenses, but I became aware of scleral lenses probably 2008, maybe 2010. But I just felt I had a busy practice, had a 2-doctor practice. I thought, well, I don't have time for that. I don't have that kind of patient. And I'm very fortunate to have a very good corneal surgeon who I've known for my whole career. We graduated at the same time, and we've referred back and forth. So the story is I sent him, what I thought were real advanced cones that needed grafts. And this was 2 patients in a row, one after the other. And he sent them both back and said, no, do scleral lenses. And I knew what they were. This was probably about 8 years ago, so 2012. And I said, I don't have time for that. I'm busy. That's complicated. So he said, well, send him to U of H, which I did. And then the third one came in, and I thought, well, shoot, I guess I better learn this. So I actually went to a day clinic, the specialty lens clinic, RGPs and sclerals, hosted by our good friend Ed Bennett and Greg Denier. Great people. And that was my first intro. Okay, this is a scleral lens. It was a wet lab. I'll be forever indebted to Greg for sticking one of those things in my eye. And I put it in and went, wow, this is really comfortable, and so forth. So I got me a kit, and the next patient came along. I stuck it in there, and it actually fit. And this was a cone patient who had worn RGPs, many RGPs, cone lenses. And she put it on and went, wow, this is the greatest thing. And I went, yep, that's me.
That's great.
So, change your life,
I find whenever I've come to a transition in technology where there's something new, and for some reason it's not along the lines of what I've known how to fit before, and that's my first inclination, is to say no and steer away from it. But quickly I realized that and I wish more optometrists realize this. I get this when I talk about Ortho-K a lot, is that no matter what, there is no practitioner in any specialty on this planet more qualified to jump into it than we are. It's not something that ophthalmology is as qualified as us. It's not something that opticianry is. And outside of that, you get further away from that gold nugget. So just know that if you're not going to do this, no one is. And somebody else will take that patient for you with the same degree and the same training you have. Why won't it be you if it benefits the patients and it benefits your practice? It's kind of, so I just dive headfirst. Ever since I had that revelation, I just dive headfirst into all those technologies. But I
think that's absolutely true. And in the long career I've had, I can tell you honestly, there has been nothing that has improved the relationships between optometry and ophthalmology like scleral lenses, because the newer generation, especially the doctors, the ophthalmologists have been in practice for the last 20, 25, 30 years. The corneal specialists and the anterior segment people, they know what sclerals are. They don't have time to fit them. They don't want to fit them. And they are very happy to send them to you and co-manage. So it's a great boon to the optometry co-management system. So
yeah, I find
for no reason, no other reason, do that. Mm-hmm.
I find with those patients that if both professionals on both sides of the table butter each other up, it works really well. Oh, Dr. Arnold will fix this for you. And then you go, oh, what a great surgery that Dr. So-and-so did.
Yeah.
That's kind of how those conversations go. I'm just making fun of them. But moving along, tell the viewers what the most interesting pathology that you ever treated with a specialty lens was, or just if you've done a lot of something that just jumps out at you, because I've read several that have blown my mind in your posts.
Wow, there's so many. We get these really proud tilted grafts, and what that means is someone who's had a corneal graft for keratoconus, and we saw one today, so maybe this is why it's fresh on my mind. And these grafts, 20, 25, 30 years old, and what happens is apparently, the keratoconus information is still probably in the peripheral cells, and so it extrudes, I guess, into the graft itself. So these grafts will get ectatic as well. Now they have to be replaced at some point, but scleral lenses really buy them a lot of times. So you get these grafts that are tabletop grafts, or just very proud grafts, we call them, and so they're very uneven, so they're very, very challenging. So people like Ed Boschnick and John Gellies and Christine Sent, Melissa Barnett, people at the university see these, but very, very challenging to fit. So you need typically larger lenses. I'm really fortunate to have be associated with the iPrint prosthetics, where we actually take the molds of the eye and make crazy lenses. So that's extremely rewarding. And then the other thing is that we see these post-archaic ptasias, from from certainly the late 70s through the 80s and even 90s. And these people now are, that was the first lens no, it was a cone. But anyway, I see a lot of those that are, +5, -6, axis 120. And, they're miserable, that their eyes are dry because they're, in their 50s or 60s. And those are very rewarding to fit, because with a scleral lens, they get the comfort, they get the moisture, it's stable. The little cornea can fluctuate underneath it. As we all know, RK patients, fluctuate from morning to night. But the scleral lens really mitigates that. So those are two that are very challenging, but at the same time, very rewarding.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I know Dr. Christine Sint, is she the founder of the iPrint Pro, the inventor?
She certainly is. Yeah, she brought that to us, along with Keith Parker, and they're partners with iPrint Prosthetics.
I've got to get her on the show.
Yeah, it's great. And the sclerals, like I told you, I thought, well, I don't need these. I don't have these patients. I started fitting sclerals, and I found that I did have these patients, and so does everyone. And then she approached me about 4 years ago and said, well, we think you need to do this iPrint. And I went, I don't have those. That's too hard. I don't see those crazy patients. But of course I do. And so that's been a great technology, and I've enjoyed working with them.
Fantastic. Something else that I know you're really good at is mentoring. You have a ton of externs, and you roll them through there, and I imagine that they're thrilled to learn this stuff, because this is such an important part of optometry that they probably just don't get enough of in their 4 years of graduate education. Tell us about your externship program.
I love it. I went to school to be an English teacher, so I guess I'm not an English teacher, but I guess I'm a optometry teacher. So I really enjoy the students. We work with two schools, the University of Houston, of course, College of Optometry, and the Massachusetts College of Public Health Science, or MCPHS, in Worcester, Massachusetts. So we have externs from both these schools, and these are students who seek out our practice to learn specialty lenses. So they're enthusiastic. They send me their best and brightest. And what's great, Alan, which I'm really proud, that we've invested a lot in our practice in technology. So we have a Pentacam, we have a keratograph, we have the OCT and the eaglet and the eye trace and all that. So they get exposed to all the specialty technology that's really in practice today, and we do the iPrint, as I said. So it's fun to teach them and get them excited. I've actually had a extern from 2 years ago go on to do a residency at UAB in specialty lenses, and then he came and he joined our practice. So that's really rewarding when they like it enough to return. But I love the students. I love teaching.
I was doing some research for the interview, and I came across a chapter in a Russian book that you wrote. Did you write it in Russian, or did they translate it for you?
So yeah, that chapter I wrote it in English, and it was translated into Russian. I've been to Russia twice, and have some really good colleagues there who do a lot of very innovative work. And I've been very warmly welcomed in Russia and have a lot of colleagues there. But my anecdote was I have a copy in Russian of the first book on contact lens practice, written by a very prominent Russian ophthalmologist. In Russia, everyone's an ophthalmologist. Optometry really doesn't exist as we know it. You go to medical school, become an ophthalmologist, and you take either a surgical tract or you take a contact lens tract. But anyway, this ophthalmologist wrote a book, his first book in contact lenses, in Russia. And I was introduced to him through one of my other Russian colleagues, and he said, this is a real famous guy, and he only spoke Russian. Anyway, long story short, he autographed the book, and he wrote me that he liked my photographs, and he was a photographer as well, and he sent me some of his photographs. So yeah, we wrote back and forth. And the anecdote is, a few years ago, these terrorists, blew up one of the subway stations in Moscow, St. Petersburg, I think St. Petersburg. They blew it up and causing destruction. And later on, there was a terrorist plot that the CIA got wind of and told Russia that, hey, this is going to happen. And they went in and the Russians, stopped it. And so I wrote this friend and I said, oh, well, I heard about this. I'm so happy. And this is a terrible scourge. And I'm sorry this happened. Good it was prevented. And he wrote back and said, yes, I knew about that. I am the chief medical officer for the Russian Navy.
Wow.
And so who knew,
Yeah,
but
comrade.
anyway, it's a beautiful country and the people are very nice.
I got stuck in the Moscow airport one time and misplaced my passport. That was my little scary Russian story, but all turned out okay. I was on my way to Estonia.
Yeah.
So
oh wow. Yeah.
You and I, we have two passions we both share outside of optometry. One is music.
I know what this is. Okay, music. All right.
You thought I was going one way, but I started with music.
Yeah. Okay.
Talking Heads, we both throw out quotes that are funny, and I think people think we have our own little language. But I do know that you have been very fortunate, just the time and space that your age range is, to see some of the most legendary performances in your time. I believe you said you saw Hendrix, maybe?
No,
okay, well, you had a Hendrix story. Can you tell us like one or two quick anecdotes of your best rock and roll, most legendary stories?
Sure. Well, my very first concert was James Brown. So that goes back, and he is legendary. Yes. I say if there was no James Brown, there would have been no Michael Jackson. And I don't think that's hyperbole if you go back and look at James Brown's videos. The reason you think I saw Hendrix is I do have a picture of Hendrix in one of my exam rooms with a little known Houston band called the Moving Sidewalks. And I knew the Moving Sidewalks and was good friends with their lead guitarist. And they later became ZZ Top. So a lot of people are ZZ Top fans. And Billy Gibbons is just a couple of years older than me. And my best friend, his older brother was good friends with Billy. So we used to go over to Billy's house. And so I know Frank and Dusty and all those guys. And so Hendrix. I guess my most favorite concert was Cream. I got to see Cream on the Disraeli Gears tour. Wow. And I liked that. But I saw Steve Miller Band and, fair amount of bands. Classics. I never saw Led Zeppelin or The Who or Beatles or anything, but
I was fortunate to
saw Garbage. I like Garbage.
Well, it's great that you span the different generations and the different genres. I saw ZZ Top at a Vision Source thing. I know that Glenn Ellisor is a huge fan, and he brought them into a Vision Source. Well, that was a real great experience. I got a picture with the band and everything. Those guys, from what I know about them, are very down to earth, and they live in the same house they grew up in, and they stay in the neighborhoods, and that's a lot to be said about that. They never, and then of course,
my daughter is a professional harpist, and she meets lots of famous people.
If you Google Meredith McCrindle, right? I get her last name right. Is that with a McCrindle?
Very good. Well done, you.
Well, I've checked her out, and her her music. Dad, I don't want you to think the wrong thing here. And it's really she's very talented and fantastic to see she's a real professional. I mean, she's world renowned.
She's a musician. I just like to listen, but no, she's played for Prince Charles several times. She's played for Nicola Sturgeon, who's the Prime Minister of Scotland. She's played with Rod Stewart. Was at one of the dinners with the Prince, and Elon Musk, a lot of stuff. So she's my famous little star. Yeah,
I know.
We're very proud of her.
No, that's really great, and I'm proud of you. And it's great to be a listener, and have someone who's a player in your family too. That helps a lot. Our other passion is Scotch, and with your Scotland connection, and I always love talking Scotch with you. You've sent me some really fine bottles over the years. They don't last too long either. Every one of them has gone down nice and smooth. Tell me, what's your latest find? Just give our viewers one thing to try that they may not know about.
Okay, here's one that you should be able to get. It's called, and I think I've sent this to you, Alan. Tomental. It's TOMINTOUL. Tomental. The 16-year-old. It's from Speyside, which is where the McAllens are from, and the Balvinis and the Glenlevitts. But it's really, really smooth and good. I like that. Anything from Balvenie is good. Balvenie has the double wood, Caribbean cast, rum cast. That's all good. I don't care for the Isla whiskeys
Me
like
either.
Lagavulin and Lafroig, and they're just too phenolic. Ardbeg, that's an extreme.
Yeah,
I
those are the
like
peaty.
Space Side.
The eyelays
Yeah.
are the peatier ones, I think.
Yes,
And
that's right.
I'm right with you. The space side is what I go to. Macallan, somebody in our industry today, God bless them, sent me a bottle of Macallan 18 Vision
Nice.
Equipment, Leo Hadley. Thank you very much. Which is my personal favorite, but it's too expensive to
Yeah.
have it around all the time. So fantastic.
I like Glenmorangie too. Glenmorangie from Tane is always good. They have a lot of different bottlings. So
I prefer the
yeah, it's good.
The Glenlivet 18.
Yeah, you know.
I like a lot.
Oh, Glenlivet 18 is great. Do you want to hear some Scottish trivia?
Sure.
So it's whiskey, is known as whiskey, and whiskey is an Anglicization of a Gaelic word, ushkaba. So ushkaba means water of life, or the aqua vitae from Latin. So the Latins came in, the Romans came in, the priests came in, they made whiskey, and the Gaelic was ushkaba, and from the ushke, and from ushke we get whiskey. So when you go to Scotland, you don't ask for Scotch, you ask for, I'll have a whiskey.
Ushke.
Ushke, yeah. Then now most of your Scots probably don't know that, but you ask for a whiskey, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to one clinical question for you, and then we're going to wrap it up for tonight. I noticed
Sure.
that you use the term in referring to the peripheral curves on the scleral lenses. You often use the term haptic, and
Yeah.
in my training, I never really heard it called haptic. Haptic, of course, I think of IOL haptics. Is that a term that a lot of scleral experts use to describe the edge, the very edge of the lens?
I think it is. I think it's a generally used term. However, you bring a very good point in that there's too many terms for scleral lenses. There was a paper in the Contact Lens and Anterior Eye Journal, the Journal of the British Contact Lens Association last year, done by some very, very prominent people. Ralph Stone was part of it, and I think Langis Mashad and some very prominent people. And it was trying to get terminology the same, all right? The word haptic comes from a Greek word, haptikos, meaning to bind. And so when I use the word haptic, it's the landing zone of the lens. It's where the lens touched down.
Yep.
Different manufacturers will call that the tangent angle. They'll call it the APS, the Advanced Peripheral System. That's Zenlens's word. AVT, Advanced Vision Technologies, calls it high, low, medium. They have different terms for it. The preferred term that we're trying to get to is the landing zone, LZ, landing zone. So anyway, haptic comes from the word to bind, and it's where the lens rests directly on the conjunctiva.
Yeah, that's the term I use as landing zone. I thought you were referring to an area even a little further out, but that's great. And thank you for that.
Landing zone is the one we should be using. Yeah, that's the good term.
All right, good.
Because that's the term everybody understands. If you throw out any of these other terms, they may not know, and they're measured differently. I mean, some manufacturers measure their landing zone in steps. I want step 1, 2, 3, or 4. Flat 1 or 2, steep 3 or 4. Some go in microns, 100, 200, whatever. Some call it an angle, 38 degrees, 44 degrees. So it's very difficult or it's a challenge for a new fitter to have 2 or 3 different lenses, and the terms are all the same. The sagittal depths are all measured differently. There's no standardization in scleral lenses, and it makes a a challenge that's not really helpful. So,
Right.
like I said, papers like these are helpful. And if the manufacturers will get behind that and standardize their terminology, it'll go a long way to enhancing communication and improving your fitting, I believe.
I think that's the perfect mission for the International Congress on Scleral Contacts, wouldn't you think?
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's good.
I just made more work.
We need a paper on that.
I just made more work for you. Don't you love me now?
That's great. Well, we're having our meeting again. COVID called it off this summer. We have it in July, as you said, and we hope to have our meeting this summer. We're planning on it. It's in Fort Lauderdale, and it's icscmeeting.com, if you don't mind me plugging that.
No.
icscmeeting.com, and it is the International Congress, and we hope to have it live, as well as, we'll be streaming it and so forth. And you've helped us with that, and as you said, you've attended, and we'd love to have you back, Alan.
I will be there. Any chance I have to go to Fort Lauderdale, that beautiful hotel, and the great dinners and the collegiality that I'm missing with COVID, definitely all reasons for me to be there. I hope to see our viewers there as well. So, Tom, it's getting late. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy evening at home after a long day in the office to do this. I see you're still wearing your scrubs, so thank you so much. I appreciate what you bring to the industry. I appreciate your friendship, and I'd love to have you back on sometime. So we'll try and coordinate that in the not-too-distant future.
It's always an honor for me, Alan, and I appreciate our long friendship that we've enjoyed together, and look forward to many years to come. So again, thank you so much for having me on your show, and best of luck. This is a really exciting chapter in your career, and I'm anxious to watch future episodes.
This is all fun. Well, happy holidays, and have a happy and mostly a safe new year, and let's look forward to big things in 2021.
That's exactly right. Bye-bye, Alan. Thank you.
Published in the British Journal of Ophthalmology, January of 2021, researchers investigated the microstructural properties of the major white matter tracts in constant exotropia before and after strab surgery, and the connection between microstructural alterations and ocular dominance. They obtained imaging data from patients with exotropia before and after the strab surgery, and they compared the data to healthy controls assessing ocular dominance and stereopsis. They found that microstructural alterations in the white matter tracts after surgery contributed to the restoration of stereopsis. In addition, findings suggest that balanced binocular input was an important factor in the restoration and improvement of binocular visual function, including stereopsis. The researchers concluded that to achieve more drastic changes, it may be important to restore normal ocular balance after surgical correction. This is positive evidence to suggest that vision training subsequent to strabismus surgery to correct exotropia may be an important part of improving visual function and stereopsis. This is something that optometrists have been recommending for many decades. In glaucoma and presbyopia-correcting eye drop news, Ocular Pharma announced results from its Orion 1 Phase 2 clinical trial evaluating the safety and efficacy of Nixol in treatment of glaucoma and presbyopia and chronic pupil modulation indications, including reversal of mydriasis. Key findings include that use of Nixol produced a statistically significant 20% mean reduction in pupil diameter under daytime and nighttime lighting conditions. It was sustained for up to 30 hours post-dosing, and over 60% of the patients in the treatment group demonstrated an improvement of 1 line or greater in near visual acuity compared to 20% who were on the placebo. There was no difference noticed in eye redness compared to the placebo group. Upon examination the following morning after the dosing, and Nixol demonstrated a tolerable profile with no systemic effects as well. It demonstrated an intraocular pressure lowering effect, especially for those with IOP baselines that were slightly higher than the normal range over 2 weeks of use. Ocular is planning to initiate a Phase 2 randomized double-masked placebo-controlled trial investigating a combination of 1% Nixol and low-dose 0.4% pilocarpine to treat presbyopia by synergistically producing the pinhole effect on the pupil as well as reducing the side effects common with higher doses of pilocarpine that are already approved. Also in glaucoma news, Glaukos Corporation announced that its iDose TR sustained-release travoprost implant continued to provide sustained substantial reductions in IOP. In a 24-month interim analysis of the ongoing 36-month Phase 2b clinical trial conducted under a U.S. investigational new drug protocol, the iDose TR contains a novel formulation of travoprost and was designed to continuously release therapeutic levels of the medication for at least 1 year. Once all travoprost is released, the iDose TR was designed to be removed and replaced with a new iDose TR, thus offering an alternative to daily eye drops for treatment of glaucoma. Researchers suggest that low vitamin D may be a risk factor for primary open-angle glaucoma. The research is based on multiple studies that propose oxidative stress contributes to retinal ganglion cell degeneration and glaucoma as well as other studies that have shown that altering reactive oxygen species can either trigger or prevent retinal ganglion cell apoptosis. Studies found that IOP declined with vitamin D administration and that participants with glaucoma had lower serum vitamin D3. However, other studies have shown conflicting results. The author's conclusion was that the research warrants further study. In dry eye news, Bausch & Lomb has enrolled 599 participants in the first of 2 Phase 3 studies evaluating perfluorohexyloctane as a first-in-class investigational to treat signs and symptoms of dry eye disease associated with meibomian gland dysfunction. In the C-CASE study, SCE, Phase 2 clinical study perfluorohexyloctane met its primary efficacy endpoint of statistically significant improvement of total corneal fluorescene staining over the control at 8 weeks. Perfluorohexyloctane also showed statistically significant improvement of certain symptoms such as severity and frequency of dryness and burning stinging of the eyes over the entire duration of the Phase 2 study. As we all know, perfluorocarbons have been used in ophthalmology for retinal detachment surgeries as a tamponade for many, many years. It's really interesting to see them applied to the front of the eye now, albeit perfluorodecolin and other different perfluorocarbons are used in retinal surgery. Investigators studied whether RPE stem cell transplantation for macular degeneration is possible. Adult retinal stem cells from deceased human donors survived when they were transplanted into the eyes of non-human primates. According to researchers, the cells were derived from cadaver RPE. For the study, the team transplanted human cadaver donor cell-derived patches under primates' maculas. The transplants remained stable and integrated for at least 3 months with no serious side effects, such as being attacked by the immune system or increasing light sensitivity in the animals. These are indicators that human adult donor RPE is likely safe to transplant. This strengthens the argument for human clinical trials for treating retinal disease using stem cells. Although results of animal studies often differ in humans, this study strengthens the argument for human clinical trials for treating retinal diseases with stem cells. The researchers concluded that transplantation of RPE stem cells to treat macular degeneration may be possible, but further research is needed to confirm this in humans. In optic nerve regenerative science, in experiments in mice and humans, Johns Hopkins researchers say they've found that removing the internal limiting membrane of the retina may improve the success rate for regrowing nerve cells damaged by blinding eye diseases. The research was published January 12th in the journal Stem Cell Reports. In the study, the team grew mouse retinas in a laboratory dish and tracked what happens when they added human retinal ganglion cells. The cells were derived from human embryonic stem cells, and when they added them to the surface of the mouse retinas, they found that most of the transplanted human cells were unable to integrate into the retinal tissue. The tissue contained several layers of cells. However, the researchers found that a small number of transplanted cells were able to settle into certain areas of the mouse retina. When they looked further, when they looked more closely, that is, the areas where the transplanted cells integrated aligned with locations where the researchers had made incisions into the mouse retinas to get them to lay flat in the culture dish. At these incision points, some of the transplanted cells were able to crawl into the retina and integrate themselves into the proper place within the tissue, as if a barrier to cell growth exists by that membrane, by the ILM. It turns out that the barrier is the internal limiting membrane. After using an enzyme to loosen the connective fibers of the internal limiting membrane, the researchers removed the membranes and applied the transplanted human cells to the retina. They found that most of the transplanted retinal ganglion cells grew in a more normal pattern, integrating well and more fully into the retina. The transplanted cells also showed signs of establishing new nerve connections to the rest of the retinal structure when compared with retinas that had intact membranes. In ocular gene therapy news, GenSight Biologics announced publication of results from its Lumovac Rescue pivotal phase 3 trial gene therapy for ND4 Leber hereditary optic neuropathy. This is the second peer-reviewed article that documents comparable bilateral improvement in visual outcomes from a unilateral injection of a gene therapy. Results also suggest that numerous other mitochondrial diseases might be efficiently targeted in a way similar to this trial. Safety data showed Lumovac was well tolerated with no occurrences of study discontinuance related to ocular adverse events. In corneal news, Chinese researchers have developed a gene editing technology to cure HSV keratitis and eliminate the virus following successful experiments on mice. As current medication only helps control symptoms and reduce inflammation by degrading the virus genome, they hope to totally remove the virus from the nerve root, that is, through a novel gene editing technology, which involves a virus-like particle with mRNA that infects the target and delivers the therapy. The new method is called HSV-1 erasing of lentiviral particles and claims to block replication, curing HSV-1 infections. The therapy, an eye drop, finds and snips or cuts the RNA of the virus hidden in the nervous system. The treatment then degrades by itself, terminating the virus in the process. Trials on donated human corneas have shown positive results, and clinical studies are being carried out in vivo with 2 subjects currently. Also in corneal news, the Corneat K-Pro, the first artificial cornea, a biomimetic implant which completely integrates with the eye wall with no reliance on donor tissue, was successfully implanted in a human. The surgery was performed on a bilaterally blind 78-year-old male at Rabin Medical Center, Israel, by Professor Irit Bahar, director of the ophthalmology department. Upon removal of the bandages, the Corneat K-Pro immediately enabled the patient to read text and recognize family members. The Corneat K-Pro implant is designed to replace deformed, scarred, or opacified corneas and is expected to fully and immediately rehabilitate the vision of corneally blind patients following a relatively simple implantation procedure. The Corneat K-Pro provides for the first time a reliable and scalable synthetic substitute to the human cornea, significantly impacting the lives of millions of people with cornea-related visual impairments and blindness. Alcon has commercially launched the first and only non-diffractive extended depth of focus intraocular lens in the U.S. The Acrosoft IQ Vivity, IOL, known as Vivity, this new presbyopia mitigating lens is now available to all U.S. ophthalmologists for patients undergoing cataract surgery. Alcon now offers 2 presbyopia mitigating IOL options, with the PanOptix trifocal for patients who want to be more spectacle independent at all distances, and Vivity, meant for patients who seek to improve their intermediate and near vision with a monofocal-like visual disturbance profile. In news about myopia progression, Cardiff University scientists are exploring which genes increase the risk of becoming severely nearsighted. The research aims to be able to determine which children are at risk of developing high myopia genetically, as well as children who are at above average risk for sight-threatening eye disease. The 3-year project was launched with the goal of working towards optimizing a genetic test for severe myopia within the next 2 years. And that's all for this week's news. Stay tuned for more of the Fluorescene Show.
Alan, this is blowing up, dude. I'm tripping.
I'm here with Dr. Dillon Batalo. Did I say the name right?
Yeah, Batalo. That's perfect.
Right, Batalo. Dr. Batalo created the hilarious TikTok, 5 Ways to Not Eye Exam, aka Slit Lamp Fail, I think. I think they were the same video. But this was a TikTok only an optometrist could come up with. Check it out. Over 2,500 of you liked it on Odie's on Facebook. For me, the Doc's Clinic jacket getting hung up on the back of the stool was enough, and then the hilarity continued. It was spot on. So welcome, Dr. Batalo.
Thank you.
What made you think of this? I mean, it was so creative, and I know you've done several like this. Tell us about your TikTok and your Instagram and what you do over there.
Yeah, it kind of started with like lockdown, last March, just being at the house. We were closed for 6 weeks with work. So jumped on social media, Instagram, and then kind of just started making some silly videos here and there just for my friends or whatever on my stories. And then people are like, oh, like get on TikTok. So I jumped on there, tried to figure out how that all worked, and a lot of kind of trial and error videos. And then when I got back to work, just started getting these ideas of just the normal, OD, OMD struggles that we face with just routine patient care. And just started recording some clips, putting them together, putting them to music, and just kind of took off. And yeah, it's just been really fun to do. So yeah.
It was out of boredom. you also have to be a pretty
the short answer is boredom. Yeah.
You also have to be a pretty funny guy. That's awesome. Tell us.
Thank you.
Everybody wants to get to know you. All our viewers, tell us a little bit about where you went to school and where you practice, and any specialties or anything.
Yeah, so I grew up in Northern California, about an hour from Sacramento. My parents are still there, a small town called Jackson, and grew up there. Went to school, San Francisco State. Took a couple years after to work as an optician through the Haze. So I don't know if Dr. Langell or Dr. Tam will see this or not, but yep, started off there, and then went to school at ICO 2011 to 2015. Kind of moved around a bit. My wife's from Tallahassee. She's an optometrist too. We met in school, and so we lived there for a few years. Then moved out to Denver a little over about a year and a half ago. So I work for America's Best. So I've been with the company since graduation, so 5.5 years, and so super primary care setting for me, which I like. I like seeing the stuff, catching the stuff, and then kind of directing the patients where to go for specialty care. So it's been a good deal, and yeah, that's pretty much catching everyone up right there.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate what you did. We'd love to see some more in the community when you come up with them, and I'm sure that people will be subscribing to you after seeing this, and I'll share your where they can do that in just a minute. I had, of course, a couple of contributions to that. For me, there's the head tilt like this. It's not it's not immediately obvious that your face should be facing straight forward after someone settles in on the chin rest. It's a slit lamp. Yep. You're not posing for a duck face photo,
Right. Yeah. That's called the helper.
Left,
they're trying to help you.
When you tell a patient to look in a direction and they say with both eyes, I like to answer that question with no, just one eye. You'll go blind if you look with two, and mess with them. Or if you can look with one eye, your glasses and exam are free this year. Anyhow, not as funny as you, but
high level
two
skill.
I would add to that.
No, I like it.
But anyhow, so we can't wait for what's next from Dr. Batalo. Be sure to follow him on Instagram at Dillon Batalo, DILLONBATALO, right?
Yep, that's it.
One L in Batalo, two L's in Dillon, and then on TikTok it'll be the same. So thanks for being here. We
Yep.
really appreciate you and everything you're bringing to
Yeah, for sure.
make our lives lighter during this difficult time.
That was the initial goal, so I'm happy that people are enjoying it for sure.
You succeeded. All right, have a good one, and thanks.
Yeah, you too. Thanks so much, Doc.